All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 2 all afternoon. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. Let me guess, you're a big Bucks fan, right? Always have been.
Yep.
Always. You've loved Milwaukee.
Favorite
team.
I swear to you, when I was a kid, I used to go to my grandpa's house, and we would watch the Bucks. I swear.
You're lying.
I swear.
Oh,
I'm not.
I'm sure.
And I am fired up, but I figured out what you and the Grappler have been doing with the NFL picks. Do you know what you've been doing?
Collusion.
You've been tampering.
Oh, we've been tampering? The Grappler and I have been tampering?
Dude, what the hell is Jimmy Butler in Hero talking about, saying the Bucks tampered? What does that even mean in a trade?
I have to believe they're trolling at this point. So if you're not familiar with the news of the day,
I think
Damian
it
Lillard's
reeks
been
of
traded.
like desperation, and they're like little kids. They're going home without their ball, and they're like, "Nah, that trade can't happen. They tampered. We didn't get Dame."
Well,
what is that? You can't tamper with a trade.
Let's play it. Jimmy Butler's been up here for weeks. Like he was at the Morgan Wallen show a week and a half ago. He was training at U of T. I don't know what he's been doing up here.
He must be, a little bit of single life maybe. If
I
he's
think
married
Jimmy's
or not.
single, and I think he's very fond of the city. I believe
Exactly.
Jimmy's
There you
very
go.
fond.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I know what he's doing up here. I'll discuss it behind the scenes.
You got an idea what Jimmy's up to?
You
He's
think so?
training.
Yeah.
He's a professional.
The James Harden Avenue type of thing.
Anything's possible. Anything is possible. But Damian Lillard has been traded to Milwaukee, and we'll get into the details momentarily. But everyone thought he was going to Miami, and everyone knew that's where he wanted to go. So Jimmy Butler jumped on Instagram, and this is what he posted in the last half hour.
Yo, NBA, man, y'all need to look into the Bucks for tampering. Y'all do. I'm just going to put that out there. Y'all didn't hear it from me, but I heard it through somebody. Y'all
I
look
love
at
that
it for
part. Yeah. Y'all didn't hear it from me.
Didn't hear it
You're
from me.
on Instagram.
That's the best part. Didn't hear it from me. It's trending. It's
Right.
literally, yes, you did hear it from me.
Yeah, there's a smoking gun, and it's you.
Yeah.
You're the smoking gun. That now.
And then Tyler Hero, that's the kid's name down
Yes,
there, right?
Tyler
That
Hero.
blocks every trade because they don't want to add him into the package. He comes over the top rope with a quote tweet saying, "Yeah, what he said." What the hell he talking about? If Dame went to Miami, he would probably be on his way out of town.
That's what I can't understand.
Right.
Like, shouldn't Hero be blocking Jimmy Butler and saying, dude, shut up. You're admitting that
exactly.
you wanted me out to bring
Dude,
Dame in.
That guy, Josiah Johnson, I retweeted it. He posted the best thing. It's Tom Brady just sitting around, and he said, "This is what Hero looks at Pat Riley." And Brady's just looking around, and then he spots Riley, and he smiles. It is the best tweet because that guy's staying in Miami, man.
Yeah, he's staying in Miami. He's not going to Portland. And yeah, Drew Holiday going to Portland. Like, basically the deal is, for Milwaukee, it's Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, and a first-round pick in 2029. Couple of pick swaps in there, but really not a lot to give up. Right. And let's call it the way we see it. The Raptors could have absolutely blown that deal out of the water. They chose not to. Josh Lewenberg will join us later in the hour to
What do you mean by
explain why
that?
they didn't do it.
Isn't that code for we just didn't get him?
No.
Like, is that not backtracking because you don't want names to be leaked saying, yeah, this is your boy Shams, wasn't it?
Well, Shams, he screwed it up. But my guess would be, because his original tweet said that Dame was coming to Toronto, my guess would be either the agent involved or Portland said, we have 2 or 3 deals on the table. We're going to accept one of them. Put it in the archives. Throw it in your archives. I think that's how these guys operate. That's why when the deal happens, boom, they hit immediately. Right. And there it is up on TSN 2, the original one he had in the draft that he had to delete, saying that the Raptors were getting Lillard, and Ayton was leaving from Phoenix to Portland. Nurkic was going from Portland to Phoenix, a 4-way deal anyway.
I love how we pick and choose who we're going to torch over those. That baseball dude, what was it? Nightdale? I don't know.
Nightingale. Bob Nightingale.
He tweeted that Aaron Judge was a San Francisco Giant or something, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he got destroyed. It was
that was
something.
John Heyman.
And he
John
signed
Heyman.
John Heyman.
there,
Yeah, he said it's over. Like 9-year deal, $400 million.
And that guy
done.
basically, they kicked his ass in a garbage dumpster and lit it on fire. But Shams is all good. He's all
Well,
good.
I think Shams had probably his sniffing out 3 or 4 deals and had them all. This is what's going to happen if he goes to Toronto. This is what has happened if he goes to Milwaukee.
He still tweeted
and he
it,
just
Jamie.
you're right. But here's the thing, and I hope people understand this because this is 100% true. There is collusion. There is, like in every sport, in every business. Like one guy's calling. You think LeBron just woke up and said, "I'm going to Miami one day."
No.
You don't think he talked to everybody down there? Like,
Of course.
there is collusion because everybody knows each other in these sports. They all talk to each other. The agents are whispering behind the scenes.
Think of
Ownership's
free
involved.
agent frenzy.
Exactly.
Duffy always says in a commercial break, he's like, do people ever wonder how these guys got a deal done in 45 seconds?
Yeah.
Like, multi-year complex deals are announced 1 minute in 12:01 on free agent frenzy. There's monkey business going on in all facets all the time.
That's why the NHL had that 5-day grace period when you could go in because it was so evident. You're right. A guy signs a 5-year deal at 7.5, front-loaded deal, all these crazy bells and whistles. Yeah, it happened at in 30 seconds. They press. Like, that's why you get around it. So, is there collusion? Is there monkey business?
Of
Sure.
course. The NBA thrives off collusion. And Miami has been the beneficiary of collusion. You mentioned LeBron. Just all of a sudden, he's taking his talents to South Beach.
I just think
that would have been worked out long in advance. That Chris Bosh was going, that Dwayne Wade was going. I think Miami screwed this up because they kept thinking that Dame's agent would do their dirty business for them and muddy the waters to the point where no one would step in. And I give a ton of credit to Milwaukee. Here's another thing that happens in the modern day NBA is superstar players hold the owner's feet to the fire. Giannis just went on a podcast a week ago and said, I don't care about Milwaukee. I care about rings. I'm happy to stay in Milwaukee. I prefer to stay in Milwaukee. But if we stink, I'm out of here. A week later, Milwaukee's like, I guess we're getting Dame.
Yeah.
That's not a coincidence. So it's Giannis and Dame for at least 2 years. They're the best team in the NBA immediately based on those two guys alone. Drew Holiday's 33. I think he's got a player option after this year. Like, that's the point about the Raptors, though, is I don't think they had the stomach to do it. And I think it's a massive mistake because, in my opinion, they do not know what they're doing. Are you reloading and building for 3 or 4 years from now, or do you believe in your people and you're going for it? Because if you believe in your people, you go out and acquire Damian Lillard. You could have traded OG Anunoby and got that deal done. Portland would have taken Anunoby over Drew Holiday every day of the week.
Well,
every day of the week. They chose not to.
That's the question somebody like yourself or a diehard fan would be saying, why were we not willing to part with OG Anunoby? So what, we're just going to be middling around mediocrity again? Okay,
exactly.
let's do that.
So, and why didn't you trade Fred at the deadline? And now Siakam's, he's going to show up in a week and just play out his deal and walk? Like, what are the Raptors?
Well, what is the plan?
I can't figure out
That's
their
probably
plan.
your first question. If they had a press conference right now and you were front row, is what is the plan for this organization now and the next 3 years?
Right.
Because it was the Shannon plan, which, we've seen lay out right in front of our eyes. You're tanking, dignified tank. You get Matthews, you go up. Listen, they've got a lot of, we call it goodwill built up because they won a world championship, the Raptors, right? Messiah's got goodwill.
Yes.
But at some point, now we're a year 5 away from it, right? Mm-hmm. What's the next plan for this group?
Well, and in the NBA, there's always a next Damian Lillard. Let's clarify that. He's the guy today. There'll be someone else in 6 months that wants out. There'll be someone 6 months after that. There's always another great player that decides, I want out. So that could be their explanation is we're going to continue to grow it, keep the kids around our younger pieces and wait for the next guy. And maybe that is their plan, but you're going down a dark alley there because you don't know who it is.
Right.
And you don't know what that scenario is going to look like. And you don't know what that price is going to look like. Now you know what the price is for an albeit aging superstar in Damian Lillard who possibly would have been bitter if he showed up here. But if it was climate or whatever, how is Milwaukee better? Milwaukee is a much inferior city, worse weather.
It's
bad as our
grittier.
weather is here.
It's
Milwaukee's
very
weather
gritty
is
there,
terrible.
too.
Yeah, if this cat was looking for some kind of lifestyle, kind of whatever.
Yeah.
Have fun.
The only thing
exactly.
the only thing he has over it is it's not that far to Chicago, really. Outside of that, Milwaukee
you got
is really.
Yeah, but
You're in it
Noodles,
to
who the
win it. You
hell
got
wants to
Giannis.
go to a city where it's not that far from another city?
Well,
Nobody.
these guys. Right, but
There's
when I
only
played
so
on Long
many
Island,
private
it's like,
birds
okay,
you
you
can
can
take.
get a helicopter to downtown New York City and you'll be there in 8 minutes. Like, that's the only
Milwaukee's
thing.
not a suburb of
I
Chicago.
know, but what I'm saying is, like, it's not that far, but it's still a ways. Milwaukee is very gritty. I use this term on this show and people get mad at me. It is a dump. Like, and I've said about other cities that are dumps, and then the city comes after me. So I don't want to say that, but
I'm glad you're saying that because I'm not. You know that I always get attacked
you know what?
by
Like,
Marcus.
I've been to Milwaukee. They had a great minor league team there. But every time I think of this, and this is awful to say, you think of Jeffrey Dahmer. That's where Jeffrey Dahmer's from.
The
Milwaukee.
terrible association.
That doesn't really affect
Terrible
much right now.
association.
Let's just go with it's a dump.
Okay.
It's
a gritty
Midwestern market. It likes beers and dogs.
I mean,
and like,
have you ever drank? Like
No
when you go into
disrespect,
the
Arizona.
It's no disrespect to Milwaukee.
When you were younger and you're pinching pennies, you go in and buy Old Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, old Milwaukee was.
Because that was like $6 for 120 beer.
That's right. That'll get you
Let's
through a
just
month.
say there's not a city in North America, and I think you guys would both agree with this statement, that has less mustaches per grown man than Milwaukee. Do you agree with
Mustaches
that?
per capita. That's what it is.
Name me a city that would have more mustaches than Milwaukee. Name one.
No,
Detroit, the only reason because of the auto industry there. There's a lot of mustaches at
Detroit does have a lot of
Chevrolet and
mustaches.
Ford factories, all of that.
You're right.
Dallas might make a run at them.
Oh, but that Dallas is handlebar mustaches because those are
If we're just
Texans.
going straight, like side to side stash, Milwaukee would be the leader.
You are right.
think you're right
Per
about
capita, there
Yeah.
are that
Per
is the
capita.
most.
If you
Yeah.
can write in and
Mustache.
tell us a place in North America that would have a city that has more, go ahead. But I don't think there is.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I guess Chicago grapplers claiming Chicago they like to consider,
no,
but
those
again,
are
it's
hipster
Chicago's got
stashes.
high
It's
end there,
Midwest
too.
though, right? It's
I'm
Midwest.
talking a guy that has one for real, not a hipster, not a guy that wants
Right.
ales and ciders on a Saturday. I mean, a real one that he's had for 25 years.
Right. It's not a style; it's an identity.
No.
And it's
Yeah.
it's
It's
got
There
an
is no
identity.
curls on the sides. It's just lip to lip and straight up and manicured.
And it's on the passport, it's
Yeah.
on his
Yes.
driver's license. There isn't
Yeah.
a picture known to man that doesn't have that mustache.
Yeah,
You're right. Milwaukee does own
It is.
that.
And growing up, I'm older than you guys. There used to be a show called The Vernon Shirley.
Yes, of course.
And I think that was shot. Like that
Well,
was they were in Milwaukee at
Yeah,
Happy Days.
Remember in Wayne's World, they went to see Alice Cooper in Milwaukee.
Oh, what?
They went to see him, and Alice Cooper's like Milwaukee, and he was breaking down
Oh,
like the
that's
history of the
right.
city and all
That's
that.
right. All
So there
right.
you go. Milwaukee's got Dame, and it was a fun, week or so of debating whether or not the Raptors would step up and if Masai was going to hold on to his assets. And anyway, Damian Lillard, he is off to Milwaukee. So Josh Lewenberg will join us later this hour. The Jays are back in action tonight. And I guess Brandon Belt is calling for people to get loud down at the Dome tonight. Well, Hedge is back. Jennifer Hedger will be with us later this
Dude,
afternoon.
now do you know why we were saying it to you in the playoffs? That's enough. That's it.
I understand now.
Yeah,
see the
I know
light.
you do because you're
that's-
pissed
I see the
at Hedger, aren't you?
That's
Well-
a 5-pack, right? Is she?
That's a
five in a
5-pack.
row for the Hedge.
Hedge, I saw Hedge a couple hours ago. I was having a stop and chat with Hedge. And right when I saw her, I said, Hedge, you're cursed. She goes, I understand. I'm the Grim Reaper. Like she's walking around the Dome like the Grim Reaper. And I think she set her record recently when being at the park covering the games is like 2-9. And she was there for all 4 games against the Rangers. She was there for both wild card games against Seattle. Like she was in the park.
She was in for the 8-1?
Hedge was there. It was 8-1. Hedge was taking notes on the positive Sports Center hit she was about to do.
Oh, my Lord.
Like that probably is what happened. Hedge was like, all right, 8-1, let's talk about this, and we'll get into that. In game 3 tomorrow, do we think chicken strips will be on the mound? And then, boom, everything broke the opposite way. So Hedge will join us from the park. But it's the classic chicken or the egg. It's been happening with the Leafs for 100 years.
Yeah.
Who is responsible for the noise? Because I saw Blue Jay fans responding to Belt, and I'm not jumping on Belt. Belt, I think he's just saying this gratuitously. Like he's not even really he's just, hey, let's get loud. It's a big game tonight. I don't think he actually is showing up saying, where's a microphone? I need to send a message
Yeah.
here. Probably just posed a question and he went with it. But They had 3 hits last night.
I was
and
going to
Jays fans
say,
like, what the hell do you want us to do? That was the
Right.
game. You had 3 hits last night.
it's like a hockey game where both goaltenders are out of their minds. It's
Wow.
like there's not a lot of action and pucks going into the net.
But
It's like, ooh, for a big save. That was a pitcher's duel. There was nothing going on along the bases. What the hell does he want?
I'm going to say this. Leslie Nielsen was behind the plate again last night.
Dude,
there was
every night.
It was
Every night it is.
There was one where he might have bowled it down, like it was in the dirt. And Leslie Nielsen
and he
calling
framed
a
it
strike.
upwards. He
framed
caught it down. He
upwards,
framed
and-
it upwards, and the guy's
Like John Schneider's head was
outrageous.
It was John Schneider's head almost blew right off his body because you see him like barking. I think it was it was early, like first inning.
Yeah, well, Vladdy got rung up. And
Yeah.
Vladdy was
Vladdy pissed.
Vladdy
That was the whole game when he got rung up with the bases
But even
loaded.
Yes,
Springer,
he was angry.
Springer turned around and was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, well, and you got Boone on the other side, who is
Yeah, been
constantly
ejected
upset,
7 times anyway.
Always trying to get upset. Understands his team, the season's over, but he's trying to, stay in the game. And here's the problem: on the mound tonight, you got Garrett Cole on the mound. So you got Cole against Barrios. We saw what this looked like last week. Cole had a perfect game going through five innings, I believe, last week at Yankee Stadium, and the Cy Young's over. He's going to win it. I would think he wins it unanimously. His statistics would indicate he should. So he will. He will win the Cy. But that's another part of it. His reputation is going to be, strike is, tie is going to go to Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
And I would expect an show again tonight. And it's incredibly
It
disappointing.
was nonsense last night. And I love, watching any broadcast where it shows the strike zone, it shows the pitch again, like how far out of the strike zone it was.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to the broadcast team, Buck's like, oh, that's a tough. You can't just ring up the ump every time, right?
That's the
it's
thing
hard.
about technology and the robotic strike zone, which admittedly I don't want to see happen because then it's the beginning of the end of human interaction behind the plate.
Right.
Right. It's effectively over. You're going to have some guy literally being Leslie Nielsen, just doing they'll be doing wild and
The
wacky stuff
dancing
because it doesn't
routine.
matter. He's got no skin in the game, right?
Right.
The robotic strike zone is determining whether or not it's a strike or a ball. But it is available to you. It's right in front of you.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it and thinking, okay, dude, that wasn't even close.
It was
It just makes you wonder, how many bad ump situations would have taken place before TV, before technology took off. Think about how hungover an ump would have been 100 years ago and just showed up and was like, guys, I can't even see the ball.
Yeah, just
But
anything near the plate.
anything
is a
close
strike.
to strike,
Wow.
and you wouldn't know if you're up in the stands. You're like, I don't know.
Who is
How
it?
the hell am I
Angel
supposed to tell?
Hernandez? Is he the guy who's known as a?
Yes.
Could you imagine if they went back through his career?
Well, they'd have access to it, right? Because he's been doing it. I think he's been behind the plate or as an ump for 25, 30 years.
So if an analytics person went through his tape and went back every game that he called and did his analytics as to what was going on, that might be an ugly stat.
I think you could probably get that access.
Hazy,
pretty
I know you don't
quickly.
want. I know you don't want robotic umps, but there's a way for a happy medium, I believe, where the umpire behind the plate, if he's unsure of something, or during a broadcast, they've got the box and you see where the balls go in or out. Why can't he just have some kind of visual where the guy doesn't dig it out of the dirt and frame it upwards and he calls strike? I believe that there's some kind of happy medium because I can't stand watching the umps lately. It's insane.
I don't
And I
see.
know it's your theory of it's part of the human element of
Yes.
baseball.
Right.
And it's always been. I think there's a happy medium where there can be assistance to some guy. I don't know if it's an earpiece, some type of I've told you guys my dumb idea about some kind of camera in the dirt under the catcher's ass where the umpire can just have a look. I don't know, but there's some kind
Like a
of
mirror?
no, like an iPad showing the strike zone box so he can just look down and be like that.
But
that
then it's
wasn't.
not a happy medium. Just end it. Right?
That's basically taking. That's all it is handing him an iPad going, I made the right call or made the wrong call. There's the box there, and
right.
it's in or out.
I don't think there can be a happy medium. That's the thing. And I understand. I am going to be on the wrong side of this. Eventually, it's going to flip. Eventually, it will. Now, they have a union, right? The Umpire Union, I don't know how strong it is, and they're fighting for jobs and all that kind of stuff.
Put an earpiece in his ear. How about that? earpiece in his
could
ear.
do
That
then
was
it's
a
the
strike,
same
Jimmy
thing.
Joyce.
But
That was a strike.
Exactly, though. It's the same thing. It's going to be someone determining that based on technology and just relaying strike or ball. Like, that's what's coming, and that's what's going to happen, and fine. Like, and I'm not as against that in terms of, like, the slowing down of the game, because it won't have an effect on the game. Right. It's not going to slow down the game. It's just the interactions of umpires and managers and players. For me, it's always been a part of the entertainment value.
Right.
It adds a different element that changes the feel of the game. Baseball's already incredibly robotic, and if you take the umpire out from behind the plate, it just leads to it being that much more stagnated. And
I've always liked having the ump because I like the manager and the ump's transactions.
Yes.
When when a manager comes bombing out, I mean, the famous bomb out is what George Brett comes
Now, that
firing
was based
out
on,
of that was on a
pine tar
call, yeah.
Yes.
But it's still, I like those transactions. The old Sparky Anderson yelling and swearing and stuff. But when you're starting to watch some of the nonsense that's going on, then you're wondering, okay, how is this going to unfold? And I know it didn't work for the Jays last night.
They still
I'm
only
not
had
bitching
3
about
hits.
it. But there was some terrible calls.
No, I know.
Romano's getting somebody. A lot of people are buzzing his tower.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bunch of tweets saying maybe it's Hicks that should be the guy. I'm like, this guy's been pretty reliable. He's had a couple blow-ups the last couple weeks, but they're not going to not make him the closer.
No, he's been consistent for 3 years now. He's been
But
he's
dude,
been
check
one of the
yourself.
best closers.
If his fingers jacked up, then
listen,
don't be the closer.
If you can't pitch, you can't pitch. Right. Like, that's another thing. I don't think there's a happy medium when it comes to Romano. Like, if he's dealing with an injury where his grip is off or his spin rate is off for whatever reason, I don't care if you're pitching in the first or the ninth inning, you can't go. You're going to get hit. And his numbers are bloated.
But doesn't
recently.
It make sense for them? Like, if you sit him for what playoffs are right around the corner.
I guess you could sit him the rest of this week.
Right, but
probably can't
is
hurt.
that nail, if it's a cracked nail from what it's being talked about, will that fix in 3-4 days? Or is it like, okay, just battle through type of thing? It's pain tolerance. I don't know. I don't know the mechanics of, like I say, I've broken fingers and nails and all that, but I didn't have to throw a ball. I just put my hand in a blocker. So who knows?
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Mark Feinsand will join us just after 5 o'clock. I guess a bunch of the Jays are down, or the Leafs are down there right now. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Riley, the big 4.
BP though, or no?
Yeah, they're taking batting
pitch?
practice. I don't know if they'll be there until like game time, but I'm seeing video of them walking out of the dugout. They're taking BP, and
I guarantee you Matthews could hit a home run.
I'm pretty sure they just
he like
posted him hitting a home run.
Yeah, wasn't he like a great baseball player growing up or something? Like I
got Hazy B as a solid lefty growing up.
Absolutely. No, I was an on-base guy. I was an on-base
You were like
machine.
Jonas.
Exactly.
bunt and run.
But we were playing like for keeps, right? It wasn't beer
Were you
league.
the
like,
Canadian Ichiro? Just slap it oppo.
That's exactly what it was, because I had wheels when I was a kid. Wheels. So I'd slap it the other way, and then I'd steal second, I'd steal third, and then I'd have a big leadoff on third.
Oh, really?
Oh, all day, man.
Like the Varsho leadoff last night, he was halfway across to the second base.
Well, that's because he had already thrown over a couple times, right? Like, that's the beauty of the new rule. And then he actually had a great base running display when the ball got away from the second baseman there.
Yeah.
But that was once we started playing real baseball where you could steal bases and the catcher actually had to throw to second or throw to third, guys would be taken off every time they got on base.
Yeah.
I was Ricky Henderson as a kid. Stealing base. I should have pulled the Ricky Henderson when I beat
even with
Lou Brock.
the leadoff, Alejandro Kirk would be picked off.
Well, did you see Stanton try to run to home last night?
Yeah.
And I saw someone had the StatCast like numbers of how long it took him. Like Bichette was basically in right field, and he got him at home plate with some time.
Yeah, like there was
like
enough
legitimately. I know the ump sold it a little bit, which I never understand. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, I guess to see if the ball got loose or something. But he was out by a mile.
Dude, I've never seen a guy playing out the string like this cat.
He was Forrest Gump with the stilts on. That's what he was.
Outrageous right now.
I mean, what is his strikeout rate? It's
that's
insanity.
That's all he does. Is
but he can
strike out.
hit. Like when he gets contact, It's
He
gone.
is completely fallen off, though. He's Jake Taylor, man. This guy, if he didn't have a contract, he'd wake up in Mexico with a sombrero on and
hung over his hell.
So
And I got confirmation from my buddy Joe. Just played in the inner club in Milwaukee, and every single caddy in every group had a cookie duster that was thick and just straight across.
Like a serious mustache.
Yes.
Didn't
every
Tigers,
single one.
Didn't Tigers caddy?
Fluff.
He
Fluff
used to
had
have a serious stash.
I wouldn't be shocked if Fluff was from Wisconsin. I don't know where Fluff's from,
Grappler,
but
Google where that guy's birthplace is. I guarantee you.
If it comes up in
you.
Milwaukee.
dude, if Fluff, where's he from? Oh, he's from Maine. That's disappointing.
That guy wouldn't even throw up grass. He would hold his dart in the air and see which way the wind
Mike
was
Cowan.
Well, that was his real name?
Yes, his name
Fluff?
was Mike Cowan. He went by Fluff.
Yeah,
The
he would
guy-
hold his dart up and the wind would be blowing.
He went to college in Iowa. I knew he was in the Midwest at some point.
Yeah.
He had that thing groomed out in Iowa.
Yeah, he sure did. And he previously lived in Columbus, Ohio. Columbus would would take a run at Milwaukee for mustache per person, I guarantee you. But all right, Josh Lewenberg coming up on the Damian Lillard trade. What it means for the East, what it means for the Raps. Jays Yankees tonight. Mark Feinsand of MLB Network just after 5 o'clock, and the Leafs are down in St. Thomas tonight. So Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Riley, they're taking BP at the Dome. And
Obviously
guys have to
not playing
They're
tonight.
not playing tonight. But Tavares is making his preseason debut, and he played. What did he play? A half season in London, or was it a year and a half? I know he got traded from Oshawa to London. I think it was his draft year, and then he walked right into the NHL. But he's got some history down there. So JT will make his debut for the Leafs in the preseason tonight. So more on that still to come. And I saw our boy on the Golf Channel this morning, and woo, was it a display? Was it a display? We'll tell you who it was, what he was offering.
I need it.
And we'll get into it a little bit later this afternoon. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Jays Yankees tonight. The Leafs are in action tonight down in St. Thomas, Ontario. Get the Ryder Cup beginning on Friday. And the NBA is, I guess, back in the forefront, right? And tomorrow night, week 4 of the NFL, my Green Bay Packers at home against the Detroit Lions. You got 2 massive games this week. Also, Miami at Buffalo this week. Massive.
That's worth going to. I know some people don't like the gong show in the parking lot, but nice weather, Miami in town.
Is it supposed to be nice this
I
weekend?
think beautiful. I think in Toronto it's supposed to be like 26 on Sunday.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I think like north of 20, 25 in Buffalo, like a beautiful day. The total's 53.5, and I think he smashed the over. Like that feels like 38-31 or something like that.
So Allen and Tua just chucking.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
what
right.
I anticipate happening. All right, so for like about 15 seconds, Shams Charania had a tweet up saying that Dame was coming to Toronto. Got retweeted 15,000 times, and then it got deleted because that actually did not happen. Yeah. Damian Lillard is on his way to Milwaukee, and the Raptors have been iced out here, I guess, on their own accord. They made the decision not to follow through and acquire Dame. And to chat about it and what this deal means for the Raptors and the rest of the East, here's our TSN Raptors reporter, Josh Lewenberg. How would you describe the Raptors' role in this, Josh? And I think everyone could concede they had enough to go and get Dame. Why do you think they did not decide to pull the trigger on that?
Yeah, I mean, their interest level was real, but the sense that I've gotten this whole week, and I wrote about it on Monday, is that the extent of their interest, and certainly them being viewed as the front runner or the favorite here, has been overstated, and probably as an attempt to go up and dig out some leverage on the part of Portland. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence here that the Blazers, as we know, were pretty desperate to get something done ahead of training camp. I don't think they were too happy with what they had been offered up until this point, and all of a sudden this week there's a sudden spike in all of these teams we were hearing about, not just the Raptors and not just Milwaukee, but like Boston was mentioned, Philadelphia was mentioned. It was about a third of the league that we heard about over the last few days, and I just think, like, listen, the Raptors are an easy team to connect to this. We know they have a history of big game hunting. This is a front office that whenever there's a big name player available, they're always going to be in the mix. They've always liked Damian Lillard. And then, of course, there's the Kawhi Leonard trade. Now, I think that's really interesting to me because that's something we were hearing a lot. Every pundit and some of them like really, really legitimate reporters mentioned that, yeah, the Raptors have taken a risk on a guy that wasn't exactly clamoring to come to Toronto before. But I think what was lost in all of that is, like, let's not get that twisted in terms of how that went down. The Raptors did not go all in on Kawhi Leonard. They got Kawhi for DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and 1 first-round pick, which isn't nothing. But at the same time, it's like San Antonio had asked for Pascal Siakam at that point. They asked for OG Anunoby. The Raptors were not doing that trade if either of those guys were included. They made that deal because they felt that that was a tenable price for the risk they were taking on. And that's my sense of where their interest level was at here, is they were interested, but their interest was contingent on that risk that's associated with Damian Lillard and his age and his contract being baked into the price. And at the end of the day, they obviously felt that it wasn't.
J-Lou, I'm sure a fan would think it's great the Raps were in on this. It's a swing and a miss, but where does that leave them? Like, okay, you didn't get Dame, but what are you now?
Yeah, and I think it's fine. It's a little bit frustrating, certainly for me covering the team, for us following the team, and then for fans that, like, the Raptors are in on everybody, which, as you mentioned, there's, I guess the silver lining in that is they're not just sitting in their hands and saying, okay, well, we're not interested in this guy, we're not interested in this guy. Like, they're involved in these discussions.
But J-Lo, you know how it goes. Like, if you don't get one of them, then
Exactly.
You haven't done anything. I say I'm going to the gym every day, but guess what?
Yeah, driving by it. Exactly. You can do a drive-by and say I went to it. And also with the price, like, this is what I can't understand. You mentioned the price for Kawhi, how that they could stomach that. Now, they were also a much better team in terms of what they already had, with Lowry, with Siakam coming, with Van Vliet coming. They hadn't made the Gasol deal, but they had Serge. But Milwaukee effectively gave up Drew Holiday, who's 33 and about to be on an expiring deal, Grayson Allen, and a first. How is that different from DeMar?
3 firsts.
No, pick swaps. It's pick swaps.
Well, the pick swaps are picks, right? Like,
still,
you've given up the right to 3 unprotected first-round picks, and the Raptors would have had to do the same thing too. So you're right. Like,
but it's not that much more, though, is the point, Josh. And Kawhi had 1 year. Dame's got 2. I don't buy this reasoning that, like, wow, we could stomach DeMar and, Jakob, but this we can't. Like, that just doesn't add up for me with the Raptors. This would suggest to me that because Masai's recent history is he overvalues his guys. And he's desperate to keep them. And then Fred left for nothing. Now Siakam and OG are walking in without long-term deals, and there's no Dame here, and I don't know what they're doing. I don't have an answer for what they're doing.
That's the biggest thing in terms of what happens now from here, because, yeah, they've got some big decisions to make. And if it's not going to happen via trade, like, they've got to get going on some of these extensions because they can't afford, regardless of what you think of this current roster and how good it is, you need some of these guys, if nothing else, then to retain the asset, right? Like, you can't afford having guys walk out the door. And the Raptors, since the championship, have had 5 guys walk out the door for nothing. Count Lowry, then it's 6 with only Precious Achiuwa to show for it. So, yeah, the fact that, as it stands right now, they're going into the season with 3/5 of their starting lineup heading towards free agency. Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, as you mentioned, but Gary Trent Jr. as well. So, yeah, if a trade isn't coming, and considering we're a week away, less than a week away from training camp, I think that's a pretty safe bet at this point. A couple of extensions have got to come here, right? Like OG Anunoby, just based on the CBA, you can only offer him a certain amount of money. He's probably not going to take that, given what he's probably going to make in free agency next summer. So you're looking at Trent and Siakam, and you've got to extend at least one of those guys, because going into the season with 3 of them heading towards free agency, that's a pretty big risk for any team, let alone one that just lost a key player, a key asset for nothing.
Right, and Ryan Wolstad of The Sun is reporting that league sources are telling him that Toronto simply would not dangle OG Anunoby for Damian Lillard. So if OG wasn't on the table, we don't believe Scotty was on the table.
I was just going to say, why wouldn't Scotty Barnes
Then who the hell was on the table? Grady Dick and Futures? I mean,
you need to make money work. So
exactly.
That would have been difficult without OG. It would have like Gary Trent Jr. and Chris Boucher, Thad Young, Otto Porter Jr. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, I do this. Producer Keith can tell you this. I do this every day in fantasy. Is just to offer the 5 or 6 guys at the bottom of your roster for the other team's best player.
Right.
But that doesn't work in real life. It doesn't really work in fantasy either. So yeah, I mean, my impression from the conversations that I've had is that the draft capital was a big issue too. Because as I said, like 1 pick and 2 pick swaps is essentially giving up the rights to 3 picks, and we've seen how that can go, right? Like, let's say Dame at 33 gets hurt. Or, I mean, more likely when he gets closer to the end of the contract, 35, 36, if you're still owing pick swaps to Portland, and all of a sudden, okay, you're not so good anymore, you bottom out, those picks are unprotected, you've now surrendered the future of your franchise to another team. We've seen how that can go before, and yeah, the downside risk there is really, really tough. I'm not justifying it. Like, I do think at some point the Raptors need to do something because there's patience, and then there's this level of patience to where you're allowing guys to walk out the door for nothing. So something's got to give here. It's either got to be a trade or extensions or something. But yeah, the vision at this point is pretty unclear.
With Josh Lewenberg, our Raptors and NBA reporter, Damian Lillard traded today from Portland to Milwaukee in a 3-way deal, Milwaukee, Portland, and Phoenix. So what does this mean quickly on the way out here, Josh, for Milwaukee's chances of chasing a championship and what it means for the rest of the East?
Well, good for Milwaukee because, I mean, I feel similarly about this trade as I did about the Drew Holiday trade at the time where it's like, okay, well, they're giving up quite a bit terms of the picks and all that. We talked about it. And maybe that seemed like a lot at the time for Drew Holiday, and maybe it seems like a lot for Dame, but they're doing it, in this case, to keep Giannis happy and to keep him around and to maximize the championship window. It obviously worked pretty well for them the last time. They won the championship in 2021. They convinced Giannis to stick around, and, I mean, Giannis turned a lot of heads around the NBA and certainly within that Bucks organization with his comments about his future recently, and clearly the message was received there. So, yeah, I mean, for all the talk about Dame only wanting to go to Miami, I mean, this is a guy that has always valued winning, and assuming that that's the case here, there's really nowhere better to be in the NBA right now if you're Damian Lillard, because I feel pretty confident looking at the Eastern Conference and how wide open things are outside of Milwaukee that the Bucks are the team to beat in the conference and maybe even the team to beat in the NBA. No disrespect to Denver, of course.
Yep, I'm with you on that. All right, Josh, thank you for doing this, buddy. We'll do it again soon.
All right, guys, take care.
Josh Lewenberg, our Raptors reporter.
Concerning, though. I don't like the fact that there's no clear plan in place. And again, they don't owe it to us to be like, this is the plan right now. But as a fan, you kind of usually have a semblance of an idea of like what the plan is.
And the expectations, like what are they this year for the Raptors? Maybe to get into the wild card? Like that's about it.
My question is, from a casual fan's perspective, whenever I watch, I say, OG's a nice player. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. But to nix a deal because of that when you're attempting to hit a home run with what you've been doing the last couple of years, that would be somewhat surprising to me.
Me too. I think this is a big mistake. I do. I think if the price was there and it was going to cost you Anunoby, plus, clearly, picks and all that kind of stuff, there was more that was going to go into it. The idea of bringing Lillard in here, pairing him with Siakam, keeping Scotty Barnes.
Yes.
That to me is very enticing. It immediately makes you a very competitive team. But that ship has sailed. It's gone. And now he's in Milwaukee. And you wait for the next guy to come up. That's the nature of the NBA. There will be another superstar that comes up. We'll see what happens at that point. Jays Yankees tonight. We'll get into that later this afternoon. The Maple Leafs are down in St. Thomas. That's going to be pretty cool down there. That's the Joe Thornton Memorial Arena, I believe it is.
Is it?
It's named after Joe Thornton.
Really?
Yeah, he's a good
Hayes,
St. Thomas boy.
Just one other thing on this trade. Who knows what the ownership thought in Milwaukee when Giannis came out about a month ago and made the comments where he's like, I'm only going where we have a chance to win.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what that did to ownership? Maybe they said, we got to pull the trigger on something. And if we don't, this guy might be gonzo.
I don't think there's any question
I'm sure
that
they
happened.
did.
I think that's exactly what Giannis was doing. That's the LeBron playbook. LeBron has changed everything in the NBA. When he left to Miami, took his talents to Miami, he opened the doors for everyone else to do whatever they wanted with their careers. And then remember when he got back to Cleveland and to LA, he's like, I'm signing one-year deals. And you know why I'm doing that? Because you got to prove to me you're going to make sure this is a competitive team. Right. You got to trade this guy, trade that guy, sign this guy, sign that guy. And Giannis is doing the same thing. He's like, I'll stick around if you make sure we win. If not, I'm out of here. And guess what?
Yeah.
I understand that. The owner's like, I need this guy. We sell out every single night.
Yeah.
There's Giannis jerseys all over the place.
Golden Goose right there.
Everyone's got a mustache and a Giannis jersey. That's Milwaukee in a nutshell. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. So I was watching the Golf Channel this morning. They're all set up over there in Rome. And our boy Fax was on it, Brad Faxon, who's always on his best behavior when he's on the Golf Channel.
Right.
When he comes on with us, it gets crazy, man. Fax will drop an F-bomb. He'll do it all. And it was him and Rolf's in Rome, but he wants to be in Hawaii. And they had Colin Montgomery on.
Oh, my God.
How was he?
They had Monty on.
That right there, if anybody ever has written in and said, what does grin screwing someone mean? That right there should be in the dictionary because someone's asking a question and that is Monty absolutely grin screwing the pants right off of Rich Lerner. That is grin screwing because you hate the question, but you have it like just an ear to ear Monty grin. That is grin screwing.
That is the definition of it.
Yeah,
that's the godfather of grin screwing right there.
He's the king. He's the number one grin screwer.
The whole thing was a grin screw. The whole thing. Like even at one point, Brad Faxon brought up that when he was on the Ryder Cup one year, Monty said on the record, we're not worried about Brad Faxon. He's struggling right now. And Monty was uncomfortable, but he was just grin screwing him to death.
Oh, man. That's another one when you're putting the guy down and he's listening to it. And Monty will grin screw the shorts right off of you. I am so glad that you found that nugget.
Yes.
Look at this guy. That right there is grin screwing somebody.
He is the Gretzky, married to Jordan, married to Brady, married to Usain Bolt of grin screwing. Like there's
throw in Michael Phelps as well.
Michael Phelps,
that guy will
everyone.
Grin screw anyone.
Yeah, he's like he was putting on a clinic the whole time. He was absolutely killing them with kindness and grin screwing and talking about Europe. And he's saying, I think we got a chance. And, we'll see. As if the Americans haven't won in Europe in 30 years.
Well, this is the year.
You think this is the year the Americans are going to get it done? It's possible. It's funny because, and we'll get into this with role play level of concern, but it seems to be a lot of focus on Brooks Koepka because he's like representing Live Golf. He's the only guy there from Live.
Yeah.
And yet he's the one guy that couldn't care less about Live. Even though he's a Live guy, he doesn't wear the jersey.
And I'm pretty sure all those guys, they love going to battle with Brooks Koepka.
Yes.
The guy's a monster in majors, and they all like the guy.
Yeah.
It's not like he's viewed as Bryson or Patrick Reed, and he's a complete pain in the ass, and nobody wants him around. I'm pretty sure Zach Johnson talked to everybody about this cat. And if they all said, no thanks, he went to Live, screw him, then he probably wouldn't be on the team.
I think you're right. I think him and DJ could have played.
The guy shows up in majors, and the guy's a stud, and the guys like him.
Yeah.
And it was a slam dunk for them, and they're better off for it.
Right. And he doesn't, I think Koepka and DJ have both been honest. They're like, we're there for the money, and we don't want to play as much golf.
Right.
That's it. Like, it's not about we hate Monahan or the PGA or Phil, and there's all this money and blah, blah, blah.
They were
These
just
guys are
straight shooters.
Exactly. We want money and to play less golf, so that's what we're going to do. And it's like, I can respect that. So anyway, Monty's over there helping out the European team.
Keep an eye out for interviews, please. And if you catch that guy grin screwing somebody doing an interview, just send in the clip. Because I could do an hour of him doing an interview. Just look at this guy.
On TSN too. I saw that today. I framed it. I took the pic. I sent it to O.
I knew that was an aha moment for you. You said because maybe we talked about grin screwing and you kind of weren't exactly sure. You saw that and you said, "Now I know exactly what he's talking about when Monty grin screws somebody."
I will have that mental image for the rest of my life because you're right. I've been waiting for it. I'm like, yeah, I've seen Monty. I know what you mean, but like. And I was sitting there watching him. He's sitting there with Rolf. He's sitting there with Fax. And he's just laying it on thick.
Locked it in. Eh?
Yes, he was.
Wow.
So, anyway, there you go. We'll have our Ryder Cup picks tomorrow, right?
Yep.
We're going to do that. We're going to have an SGP tomorrow on FanDuel.
Shout out to Joe Thornton.
Shout out to Joe Thornton, who's still alive.
Still alive. Not
As people have pointed out, I called it the Joe Thornton Memorial Arena. The guy's still alive.
He's kicking. He's doing well.
It's the Joe Thornton Community Center.
close enough.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Just a bit outside. The Joe Thornton Memorial.
And
Dynamite drop-in money. That broadcast school has really paid off.
that's awesome.
Yeah, Joe Thornton, we can confirm, is still alive.
Yeah.
And yes, he's got a community center named after him.
Yeah.
And the Leafs are in action playing there tonight. So more on that into the next hour. Jays Yankees tonight as well. And role play level of concern coming up at 5:30. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.